He was still him.
I feel like once he went down to bantamweight, he was not him. What's going on, everybody? Your favorite podcast, Back in Action, Road to Gold, episode 7. I'm Dylan, here with my man Ron. We're here to bring you the greatest MMA news that's out there right now, man. How was your week, man? How you doing?
And a good week. I was getting prepared. Watch some good film. Love we have going on tonight. I'm excited for this one.
I am too. We got another good fight night. Another good card, some definitely division potential shaking going on. Very interested to see how things shake out. But before we can get into any of that, we had a good fight card last week. Fight night, Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas. Rose got the win. Edmen Shahbazyan got a win. We had some good fights. I want to focus on that Edmen Shahbazyan fight. He took on AJ Dobson, Cleveland's finest from Strong Style. I bigged him up. He didn't get the win. Edmen ended up knocking him out. AJ actually had him hurt. He had him hurt early, but Edmen rallied, got him out of there. Were you impressed? How do you feel about it?
I'm an Edmen fan. I picked Edmen. I'm glad he got the dub. Was I impressed? I will say I wasn't impressed necessarily, though.
By Edmen.
I think, by Edmen. I think it didn't look as good as I wanted him to look in the fight. I figured when he was going to go in there, it was going to look cleaner. Even the moment where he actually rocked AJ and pounced on him, of course, you have an advantage, get in there, and of course, finish him. But I thought his striking was going to look a little cleaner than what I saw. AJ was actually able to kind of put him on the back foot a little bit. He was able to touch him up a little bit. There was a couple moments in that fight where I thought Edmen was going to actually have a problem in his hands throughout this fight. He landed the strike that hurt AJ first, which is good to hear. But I do want to see him improve more. I hope his next outing is going to be a better looking Edmen Shahbazyan. But I'll take wins and wins. I'll take it either way.
At the end of the day, you're right. A win is a win. Man, AJ had him hurt very early. Caught him with, I think it was a left hook, something of that nature, and he had him hurt. And just knowing AJ's style, he's a pressure, get on you, get in your face. If he hurts you, he's going to pounce on you. That's what I thought we were in store for. And it was weird because we actually saw Edmen Shahbazyan shoot more takedowns and initiate more of the clinches, more of the grappling situations, more than AJ did, which I was very surprised about. But at the end of the day, AJ was hurting him. But I mean, at the end of the day, you don't get points for hurting people, and Edmen definitely finished it. Surprised you weren't more impressed with him, because that was that was your pick. We know he trained with Ronda. He was the golden child coming up. The UFC was pushing him heavily, and AJ's no tough out. Like, AJ's a solid fighter, so I'm surprised you weren't that impressed with him.
I think it comes from looking back into AJ and looking to what he's good at and whatnot. I knew, like you said, he was going to try to get in his face. He wasn't going to be afraid of the striking or whatnot of Shahbazyan. But I thought Shahbazyan was going to make it clear he was the better striker. I didn't feel like that was clear. If that was your first watch of Edmen in a fight, you would have thought, oh, these are two talented, equal fighters. What's to happen next? I don't know. Where if you have watched Edmen in the past, if you watched AJ in the past, going into this fight, you should have assumed, okay, we know who has a striking advantage. We know who has the wrestling advantage. We know who's the aggressor. We know who's going to push the pace more. Okay, like, based on what we know, Edmen's going to probably land some pretty good kicks. He's going to probably catch him with a couple crosses, a couple hooks. He's going to maybe stumble AJ a little bit more. He's going to put the pressure on him. He's going to make him feel his presence as a striker at some point. But I got that impression more from AJ than I did from Shabazian.
True.
AJ was actually the one that was making Shabazian like, "Ooh, okay, let me wake up. Like I'm in a fight right now." Which, hey, you know what? You made it a fight. That's good. I'm not trying to say anything bad about AJ's striking, but I thought Shabazian was going to look like the superior striker, and he didn't. Ultimately, like I said, a win's a win. Getting back in the gym, hit the mitts again, get a little better and better. I'm sure his next outing he will be the Shabazian we know from the past.
I agree with you. I do think he's going to build off of this and hopefully continue. Did you because again, he's only 26. He's around our age. He's very young in UFC standards. What do you see in his future? Not necessarily maybe, his next fight, but is this guy championship material in the future at middleweight, or does he have gatekeeper written on his name? Is he run of the mill? Like what are your impressions of it?
I think he has championship potential. If he can keep his striking sharp, if he can get the finishes we expect him to get, if he can look dominant in his striking, especially at this level where he's at in the pack right now, I believe he will one day show, okay, I can roll with the big dogs. Work on your wrestling defense, work on getting up. Do not get complacent on the ground. Feed into your advantages. If he can do that, hey, I think he has it written on him. But at the same time, like I said, this fight with AJ didn't make me feel any better about it. I do think he still has it, but hey, you know what? Is time will tell. But I'm team Shabazian right now. I'm gonna let him show me that he can do it.
Okay. I see you. I see Cottrell in the chat. He's talking about Bo Nickel is gonna run the division for the future. And look, I don't know, this might sound crazy. I think in about 4 years, Edmund Shabazian versus Bo Nickel could be a good matchup for either one. Now, I know your initial thoughts. Dylan, Edmund Shabazian can't stop a takedown. Like, what is that going to look like? In 4 years, I think he will have put forth maximum effort because he's not going to get anywhere in the middleweight division not being able to stop a takedown. I mean, you got guys like Robert Whitaker, you got guys like Duplessis, you got Marvin Vettori, you got people that can secure takedowns when they need them. So you're going to have to be able to defend a takedown. And I think that's going to be a part of his game. I think he did better-ish this fight with it, which isn't saying much because he was so bad at it in the past. Yes. So I understand. But I do think that in the future he could be better at that. I don't know. I think that's not a bad matchup.
Use most of your camp for takedown defense. If your camp's a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, hey, use most of that time working standing up, ground game, and takedown defense. We know you're the striker that you are. Just work on everything you're not good at.
And out of camp. When you're out of camp,
find
different ways to get up off the ground. That's when you should be experimenting, trying new things. Hey, start playing with Kimura sweeps. Start playing with, different things of that nature that, I don't know, maybe can give you an edge getting off. But
I think
who knows? That's just conjecture. We will see how that plays out. Next fight that we need to talk about, Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas. So I'm gonna let you go first, and I'm gonna tell you how I felt about this.
Rose, good win. I felt I wanted more from her. I thought the fight was going to look a different way. I know when we were first watching the fight, you were saying it kind of came off to you in the time like a little bit like a sparring match, and I got where you were coming from for sure. It looked like they weren't trying to hurt each other. It looked like they were almost just point fighting at a point. And Rose has the accolades. She has the highlights. We know her from being this dominant. She's had wars with greats. I expected more from Rose. Maybe I shouldn't expect more. Maybe I should expect a win from Rose. Maybe that's all I should be expecting, just a win. But I really thought the fight was going to be a different kind of way. and Rose didn't show me that. I think she has that dog in her still. I think she still has it. She still has the crazy strikes. She has the combo. She can walk you down with great boxing, kickboxing, take you down, get on top of you, ground and pound you. She has a nice little submission game, nothing crazy there, but it's pretty good still. I think she has all the tools. I think it's somewhere in her mental for some reason. Her aggression when it comes to trying to go for finishes isn't the same as it used to be for some reason.
I hear you. I hear the mental aspect. I hear that specifically with her because she's been through mental struggles ever since she won the belt the first time, and she didn't know she wanted it, and then she lost it, then she wanted it back, then she lost to Carla. She went down this, took a whole year off. She's been going through a lot of different mental stuff, and I sympathize with her. I understand. I get how the game is, but come on, dude. Like there, we have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
And she got the win. Don't get me wrong. She won the fight. I'm not saying she got Amanda got robbed. I'm not saying anything like that. But like I told you when we were watching the fight live, it just looked like a sparring match. It looked like they were in there just throwing feelers. And if you've ever sparred before, you know the difference between trying to spar somebody and trying to hurt somebody. It didn't look like she threw a single strike that was intended to hurt Amanda Hebos, which granted, Rose is a different type of fighter. She is a finesse with power type of fighter. When she knocked out Wei Li with that question mark kick, it didn't look like she was straining or putting maximum just fury into it. Like it looked very graceful. It looked very elegant.
Right.
Which I understand and I get. But when that doesn't work, dude, you got to go for it. Shout out to Amanda. One thing about Amanda Hebos is she's going to at least try to make it dirty and try to do something. And even, I'm not giving her fast either because I don't think either woman really should get credit for doing really anything. Of that. I will say, looking at the control time, Rose did, she landed more strikes. She had more control. I just ultimately wasn't impressed.
One thing I saw from that fight that I thought was interesting was after 5 rounds, significant strikes difference was Rose 93 to 83. In a 5-round fight, I think those numbers are a little too low. In a 5-round fight, at least one of you should be around 100 significant strikes. You're talking about about 18 significant strikes around about? Like, what are we doing? In a 5-round, 5-minute round, there's a lot of setups. You're trying to be technical. I get that, but
I get it.
Someone needs to step up and say, I'm gonna throw you a mean 3-piece combo, and I'm gonna put you out with this combo. And at least just go for it. Do something. Like I said, competitive fight for what they were doing. Rose won the fight. Maybe I'm being a little hard on her, but I wanted more.
I think I don't think we're being that hard. We just expect more because she's great. We've seen her be great. We saw her knock out Joanna Jędrzejczyk. We've seen her knock out Wei Li. We've seen her beat Jessica. We've seen her do these things. And it's not that we expect something spectacular every time, but it's just a mentality. And Cottrell points out a great thing. I think it has something to do with her corner because she no longer trains out in Onyx Gym in Colorado with Trevor Whitman. When she was with Trevor Whitman, it was her, it was Justin Gaethje, it was Kamaru Usman. It was 3 savages. And they were getting to it. They were grinding. And Trevor is a hell of a coach in the corner. And quite frankly, I think she's missing out on that. I think after the Carla Esparza debacle, she left that gym and trained somewhere in Minnesota or some odd place, which I don't know if she felt she had to do that because of how the Carla Esparza match goes. I don't know if she's listening to Pat Barry. If you know, you know. We don't like Pat Barry out here. Like I don't know. And I think it ultimately is hurting her. Could it be that? Could it be her going up to flyweight? Maybe she's not a natural 125er. Maybe she should go back to 115. Like, what do you think about that?
So I think she has all the technical skill to hang with anyone in 125. I think she has the knockout power still. Honestly, I think
Does
she.
she?
I think she does. I think she. Okay, it's hard because she has a few knockouts, but she's not necessarily known as a knockout artist. But she can hurt anyone at the least bit with any given weapon she has.
Right.
So I don't want to say it doesn't translate because she, I mean, like you say, she's fought Ioana. Ioana is definitely a bigger woman. Even in the fight, it looked like, hey, like Rose, like, I hope you stay clear of these combinations because these may put you out at any given moment. But she stood up. She showed her that she's here to fight. Ultimately, I don't think the weight change should hurt her. I think she's so technically sound and good. I think she needs to. It's mental. I think she needs to just up her aggression. Just show everybody you are who you say you are. Once you get in people's faces, let them feel that right, make them feel your kicks. I think we'll see. I think we'll have a different opinion about her.
I'll say this. I don't think it was a big thing in this fight because Amanda Hebos, she's similar to Jessica Andrade, where she will drop to 115 and go back up to 125. She competes in both divisions actively. So she's naturally also a smaller flyweight. If you watch Rose's fight against Manon, who we're going to talk about later for the upcoming card, I think it was pretty evident that Rose was smaller, had less sting, had less pop. Now, granted, that was her first fight at flyweight, so maybe she didn't put the weight on right. Maybe she wasn't strength and conditioning the correct way, and that's why there was a discrepancy. But it just seems that she might not carry that up to flyweight. And I heard Erin Blanchfield echo similar thoughts throughout this week, just watching her interviews. She said, I'm not sure Rose is built for flyweight. And that's when I started to think, like, you know what? She has the skill. She has the knockout power, but does she have just the size and the strength, I guess?
I want to say maybe this is just I'm stuck in the past. I'm stuck into seeing what she's done through her come up to the belt, winning the belt, even regaining the belt. Maybe that's just me kind of stuck there with her. But I believe she has that. I believe she is still that. And I think that Rose can carry the flyweight. I think that Rose, that version of Rose, can hang in flyweight still. It just comes down to I think her mental, but we'll have to see. Her next fight in Fly will definitely show us a lot, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, she's ranked 7. She finally debuted on the flyweight rankings. So, just looking at the top fighters in flyweight, you got Grasso, Valentina, they're gonna face off. You got Blanchfield, Fiore, they're gonna face off. Macy Barber, I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me. We don't
Okay.
want to see her against Jessica Andrade because Jessica Andrade consistently is somehow always in the top 5.
I hate it.
She's ranked 5 right now. She's ranked 4 in straw weight. Like, I like Jessica Andrade. Don't get me wrong. Like, she's nothing wrong with her. I just don't want to see that fight again. I'm sorry.
And they've already fought like twice.
They fought twice. Like,
I don't gotta see that again. I don't.
we don't need that. So, Rose versus Macy Barber.
I'd rather. Yep.
You could sign me up for that. That would be a number 1 contender for the number 1 contender fight. Like, whoever wins that is now going to be in the next number 1 contender fight. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I am excited about these flyweights on this upcoming card, though.
Yeah.
However, we got a few fights before that. UFC Fight Night: Blanchfield versus Fiore. Before we even get into any of that, did you notice any sleepers? This card is kind of jam packed with some guys and some women that can fight that might not have the recognition from the public. Did you have anyone of mine? I had a few.
So coming on this card, I think Bruno Silva caught my eye, honestly. And he caught my eye because he was someone who came to the UFC. He was the it was M1. He was an M1 middleweight champion before coming to the UFC. He had a loss in 2016, and then his next loss before that was in 2012. He had 10 fights in between that and didn't lose any of them. So before the UFC, before these last 3 or 4 or 5 fights, he only really had maybe 3, 4 losses to his name.
Mm.
And if you watch him fight, he has like 23 wins, 20 of them are knockouts. If I told you a UFC fighter had these accolades, you'd think, oh, he's probably amongst like top 5 pound for pound. And unfortunately, the thing he's known for the most is when Alex Pereira's second fight in the UFC, he beat him. Alex beat Bruno. So, and I'm like, man, like someone like this is like, if you were excited to see Bruno come to the UFC, seeing what's happened these past few fights, you'd think, okay, like this is not what I thought was going to happen. But I think it's all still there. He has the knockout power, the strength. He has a lot of the technical ability. He probably has to clean a little bit of that up still. He needs to adjust to higher level of fighting because I think it was so easy for him. I do believe he probably was just walking over people. It is getting better wasn't necessarily a thing he had to think about or worry about. He thought the training he was just doing was good enough. That training he was doing was just good enough because it's all coming out to wins. But he wasn't getting better technically in his skill, where now in the UFC, all these guys could have been M1 middleweight champions. So, like I think he gets more flack than he deserves. He fights tonight. I'm excited to see him fight, as I think he can turn around with this one. You're right.
He didn't. He didn't. Pereira didn't even knock him out, I don't think, because I remember watching that, and fight before that. That's when Pereira, I think it was his debut. He did like a flying knee and knocked the guy out cold, and I was like, whoa! Like, I knew this guy was a savage in kickboxing, but is he the real deal here? And then he did that, and then he had Bruno Silva the next one. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be like a good test. And I think it was like a 3-round good fight. Pereira definitely won, but I remember watching that like, Bruno Silva, like he could ultimately do something someday, maybe not right now. So it is a steep challenge. I mean, he's facing Chris Weidman.
Yeah, it's definitely a steep challenge. I think him winning this fight will give him the confidence, and he will reemerge to, okay, I know what I have to do. I know how I have to train. I have to keep upping that, which I did for this camp. If he keeps upping it, keeps driving harder and harder, he's 30, he's like 34, he's in this is the prime right now. This is his time right now to go for it. I think he could be something to play with. Not to play with, actually.
I was about to say, I'm like, play with. Okay. I mean, let's all watch out for Bruno. Like I said, he's the third fight from the top on the main card, facing off against Chris Weidman. A lot of other sleepers on here, man. I got some prelim fighters. I got some prelim fighters who, granted, this guy should not be on the prelims. Nate the Train Landwehr. He is a fan favorite. And quite frankly, he was a few fights away from being at the top of the featherweight division until he ran into Dan Ige, who is a savage. But Nate the Train, I think he should be way more popular than he is, just because I promise, if you guys watch the fights in the octagon, he's a savage. He was a cross country track runner.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, he was. It was crazy. He ran the 800. That was his race.
Hey, now,
because I remember, as a former track guy myself, I hear a UFC fighter, former track guy. Like, that's an interesting combination. So I know he has cardio. I know he can go the distance there. But he's also a savage. He's not scared to stay in the pocket, and he's even better on the mic. That guy on the mic is gold. I think we need more guys like him on the mic, and hopefully he gets a chance to show on the prelims. I think he's probably, I would assume he's the main prelim fighter. So everybody should get a chance to look at him. Another guy that I also am a fan of, that is another sleeper that I've been hip to for a while now, is Anton Turcal. He's a Swede. Don't, it is what it is. He is another guy that the UFC kind of pushed a little early. He was undefeated coming into the UFC, 8-0, only had 8 fights, which is very small when coming into the UFC. And they put him against guys like Jailton Almeida, who was just fought Curtis Blades.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Petrino, Tyson Pedro, guys that are veteran staples. So he's been on a sort of a skid. I think he gets on track here. That's another guy who, if you're going to watch the UFC, make sure you tune in for his fight. He has funny walkouts. He comes out to like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and he's doing the funny dance. Like he's another personality. I think we need some more personality in the UFC.
That's true. I definitely agree there. Love me some personality.
I understand some people come in there stoic, and that's what Dana White might like. But I promise the UFC would get more fans. They would get more outside fans if they let these guys. MVP.
Yeah.
You can't tell me people watched MVP and were annoyed and this needs to end.
No, his entrance.
It was cool. Tough. Like maybe we're crazy. I don't know. But definitely check out those fighters: Anton Turcal, Nate Landwehr, Bruno Silva. Speaking of Bruno Silva, we might as well just talk about his fight against Chris Weidman. We all know Chris Weidman. He is a staple in the middleweight division. The man to dethrone the king. Once upon a time, I hate I have to bring that up to you, but I do because he did it.
That time period haunts me.
Took out Anderson Silva. I'm sorry, but he did. He since has did he fracture, or he broke his tibia?
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, I think it's fibula.
One of those bones essentially snapped his shin bone in half. It was devastating. UFC 261. I remember where I was when I saw it. It was one of those types of things. He since has recovered. It's been 2 years. He had a fight maybe last year. He didn't look the greatest. It was it wasn't the greatest performance, but I mean, what can you expect coming off of a broken leg? I mean,
right.
So I'm interested to see how he does in his second fight back. He says he's not going to retire. He's here to get the belt. But he's got your sleeper. He's facing your sleeper, Bruno Silva. So what are your thoughts?
Hey, dog. Listen, dog. Come on, man. He's 39. He had a devastating injury to his leg. I'm not trying to come off as someone who doesn't like the old guys.
Can I pause you 1 second? Are you hating because he dethroned the king once upon a time, or is this unbiased?
No. Okay. That's not the reason. It's not the reason. It's not the reason.
All right, continue.
But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're not going to go there.
You don't need to.
As far as he goes, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's very technical. Kind of starts off his fights a little slow sometimes. He's a pretty decent striker. If he gets on top of you, he's hard to get off. But he's 39.
He is.
His time has passed. His height has passed. It was short-lived. I'll give him that. I think he had the potential for it to really kind of maybe be a little longer. But then I think it was against Uriah Hall where he broke his leg. I think when that happened, that was like that time off and recovering the leg and everything. I think that really derailed where he could have been right now.
Mm-hmm.
And with that kind of ultimately just being said, you're facing a savage in Bruno. You're facing he's not a joke. He's not like I said, if he has worked on his technical skill, he does get complacent. Gets complacent in the guard where Chris Weidman will flip that on you really quick. So stand up. Get his hips off of you, stand up immediately. Chris Weidman will maul you on the ground if you allow him to. So don't play with him there, because Chris Weidman, I'm not gonna get it twisted. He's stamped on the ground. He's very stamped. But Bruno, you're stronger, you're younger. I think you're better. Just fight your fight. Keep distance. Step in, right hook, body, get up out of there. Don't let him find an opening for the takedown. All you look, I know I'm making it sound easier than what it is,
You
but
are.
ultimately, I really feel like he has what it takes. Bruno has what it takes to take out Chris Weidman, and then if he does that, personally, I think he needs to retire. He says he doesn't want to, but hey, I'm gonna let him live his life the way he wants to live it.
We know how you feel about getting the last generation out of there, so
I'm all for it. You're right. You're right. I'm all for it.
we know how you feel about that. I mean, he has a task ahead of him, like you said, younger, more energy. I'm sure. I don't know. It's a tough one. Does Chris get him to the ground? Because if I was Chris, especially with my leg, I don't know if it's still compromised, but even if I might be uncomfortable, just knowing that, I would be pushing. If I'm in his corner, I'm telling him, Chris, come out striking, blah, blah, blah. Get it, get in clinch, get to a single, get it to the ground any way you can, and we'll go from there. Can he achieve that on Bruno?
I think he can do that with Bruno, which is why I think this is more or less going to test Bruno's mental. This is going to test to see how much he's paid attention in these technical situations, because you have the power to knock him out, but don't get ahead of yourself, because he's going to eventually, you're going to go for a hook. He's going to duck the hook, and that's going to be a beautifully timed takedown that Chris Weidman will get on you. Don't get careless. Don't just go for it because you think you have it. Bruno plays this fight smart and correct. I believe he has what it takes and the strength. He has the strength also to get Chris Weidman to keep him off of him. Even if they do clinch up, I don't think Chris Weidman's going to just outpower him to the ground. But like I said, this comes down for the mental of Bruno. If Bruno keeps the mental in check, just watch yourself. Be careful. Go for your attacks when you have the opening. Don't force it. Don't push the pace for no reason, because Chris wants you to do that because he wants to time you for a takedown.
Right. I couldn't have said it better myself. Where do I lean? I probably am going to lean with you and go Bruno.
I didn't expect that.
Bro, as much as I want to go for Chris, I'm gonna be cheering for Chris. Like, watching the fight live, I will let you know now. I will be cheering for Chris Weidman. I want Chris Weidman to win. I love the old generation. I want them to fight forever. I know they can't, but I want them to win forever. All that being said, like you said, Bruno is a savage. He went toe to toe with Alex Pereira. He's nothing to sleep on. I know he's 1-4 in his last 5, but he's faced some savages. I mean, he's faced Alex Pereira, Gerald Meerschaert, Brendan Allen. He knocked out Brad Tavares. You know how hard it is to knock out Brad Tavares?
I like Brad Tavares.
Brad Tavares, Izzy couldn't knock Brad Tavares out. Like, it's
Facts.
Brad Tavares is a savage, and he got Brad Tavares out of there. Like, Bruno Silva is nobody to be played with. I don't think he has championship aspirations, though. I don't think he, as Cottrell said, not everybody's a contender. I don't think he's a contender.
You know what? Know what I see. What makes him? I feel like he has the possibility. When you have knockout power, when you have finishes the way that he has finishes, if you can translate that in the UFC, if you can get that to translate, I think he does. I think the ability to finish a fight, it means something. Not everyone has that ability, especially 20 of your last like 24, 23 wins. I think if he can translate it correctly, I think he does. If he doesn't ever figure out a way to translate it, then you're right. At best, he's a gatekeeper. But hey, when you have a finishing ability, anything can happen.
I don't even think which gatekeeper do we mean? Because I know on the Wire to Wire episodes, they talked about what is a gatekeeper. What is a gatekeeper to you? Are we talking Neil Magny gatekeeper? Or are we talking Robert Whittaker gatekeeper?
I was thinking Neil Magny gatekeeper.
Okay. Like,
not Robert Whittaker gatekeeper. No.
I feel like Robert Whittaker gatekeeps the title, whereas Neil Magny gatekeeps the top 10.
Okay. Robert Whittaker, yeah, he literally stays top 3, and he's just forever in mix for contention. But Neil Magny, he's Neil Magny gatekeeper. I'm gonna defend the top 10 because this is as far as I can get gatekeeper.
And just to clarify, I also don't think that Robert Whittaker being a gatekeeper is bad. I think that's a good gatekeeper versus, a Neil Magny situation or even a Jessica Andrade situation where they're always in the top, whatever. We don't know how, but they're always just seem to be there. I think Robert deserves it. We don't need to get into that though.
For sure, he does. He does deserve it.
Yeah, that's a side note. Either way, very excited. Chris Weidman also fighting in his native New Jersey. He's actually from Long Island, but they're close. They're basically the same thing. So maybe he'll have an extra boost. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. Next fight up,
10 plus points for being close to home.
I know. I'm just trying to get him. I'm trying to egg him on a little bit. Anyways, next fight, Vicente Luque, Joaquin Buckley. This is a good fight. Dare I say, a great fight in the welterweight division. Vicente Luque, one who was on the cusp of fighting for the belt. A few things go differently. He's fighting for the belt, but nonetheless, he's up there forever in the top 6, 7-ish. This is an important fight for him, and he's facing a guy in Joaquin Buckley who had some struggles at middleweight. He had that crazy knockout where he knocked the guy out cold after getting his leg caught. He had some up and down moments. Then he went on a losing streak, but that was at middleweight. He dropped down to welterweight, where he's 2-0. He's found success, and he finds himself in a fairly good position. I mean, he's probably fighting for a ranking with this fight. So
I'd say so.
So what do you think about this fight? What do you think about it?
I hate to hear that Cotrell's also rooting for Vicente. I'm not gonna lie to you. I respect him. I respect Luque because, like you said, he's one of those guys that hangs around. He's on the cusp. He's a good fighter. I have personal issues with him personally.
Whoa! What do we got?
I don't like his fight style.
Why?
He reminds me of, like, if you was to play UFC 5 and create a player, that standard fighter would be is him. Like, that's him. There's nothing about his game that is great to me. It's all like the same level of just average across the board. He has great skill. He gets into habits of point striking at times. He has 11 wins by knockout. He has 8 wins by sub. He's talented on the ground and on the stand up. Like I said, I respect him as a fighter. I like him. My problem is I personally just don't love him just for his style. It's his fight style. That's all it is.
That sounds
Since he brings that smoke. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. But if you look at him and then you look at my dog, Buckley, I mean, like, yeah, like that. He has identity to his fight style. He's a hunter. He's athletic. He's powerful. He's quick. He's strong. He's gonna be in your face. He's gonna make sure, like, anything you said bad about him, he's gonna make sure you eat those words by the end of the fight. He's extremely explosive and he's very dangerous. I'm going with Buckley on this fight. I don't think that Luque will be able to handle the explosiveness of Buckley. I think he's going to surprise him with a right or left hand, an uppercut. He's gonna surprise him with something. I think his striking, like his technical striking, Luque's technical striking is good enough, but Buckley isn't going to go in there with the intention of trying to point fight with you. That's not his intention. He's going there with dangerous intentions, and I don't think point striking works when you face somebody who's a killer. I just don't see it.
So because Vicente is well-rounded and because Buckley has one path to victory, he gets, like, you hate on him? Am I hearing that correct?
I think you worded it. You were wording it a certain kind of way.
I'm calling it like
I think Buckley's way of winning, I think his strengths are better. His one strength may be better than what Luque has in his overall bag. If they go to the ground, I don't think Luque can keep Buckley on the ground. I think he'll be able to explode out. I think if they stand up and they get into the phone booth a little bit, I do not believe Luque wins that. His path to victory, I think, is to point strike, stay out of range, and if he can keep Buckley on the ground, hey, you showed me something. But I don't think he can do that.
Yeah, this is again. I'm a Buckley fan. Let me just start off by saying that I am a Joaquin Buckley fan ever since because I watched that fight live where he knocked that guy with the mohawk out with that kick in Abu Dhabi.
Craziest.
I watched that live.
Twisted.
I was a fan. You know, he's exciting. He's brash, not afraid to celebrate things like that. I don't like how you're talking about Vicente Luque like he's some pitter patter fighter. That's what I don't like. And I'm about to sell myself out here because one of my guys is Bilal Muhammad. That's one of my guys.
Ew.
And I know how people feel about Bilal. But one thing I'll say about Bilal is he's not always the most exciting fighter to watch. Some of his fights do not end in stoppages. In fact, most of them don't end in stoppages.
Okay, good.
He's usually going to decision. He did beat Vicente Luque. But the thing about Vicente Luque is he is going to go for the finish. He's going to go for the finish. I mean, let's look at his track record on the mat and off. Michael Chiesa, Darce choke.
Good finish.
We know Michael Chiesa is like that on the ground. Vicente said, "Okay, I'm going to go into your arena. I'm going to get you out of here on the ground." Darce choke. Tyrone Woodley. And let's think back to 2020, 2021. Tyrone, he might not have been in his prime. He might not have, but he was a guy. And that was a great fight. Darce choke. These aren't decisions. Randy Brown, knee, KO. Nico Price, who is typically similar to Neil Magny, is he can take damage. He's not going to TKO. He's gone the distance with Mike Perry. He's knocked out Jalen Turner. You know, he beat Bilal Muhammad back in 2016. KO. I mean, he's an exciting guy. I don't get where this sense of
it's not that he's not exciting. I just think he's I don't even know how to word it because bland isn't the word. Bland sounds like I'm insulting him. It's not bland. It's just his fight style is very normal almost. Like I don't know how to put it. Like he's a very normal type fighter. I like him. Like you said, he gets finishes. I'm gonna always respect that. I'm always respect a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Gets knockouts, gets subs. He's well rounded. But I don't think if this matchup particularly, you're facing someone who's so much more aggressive than you that you're gonna have to surprise him with something, or you're going to have to take him down probably. Because I think he's going to be in more danger against Buckley than what Buckley is for Luque.
I mean, true, because Buckley has one path to victory. He's not going to outpoint him. He's not going to out wrestle him. He's not going to jiu-jitsu him. Like, he's not going to do any of that. So his one path to victory is either blitz and try and overwhelm or, you know, knock him out with.
He has good cardio. He can do that though. Buckley has great cardio. He can fight the same way for multiple rounds.
But I mean, if that's enough, then sure. But you just make it seem like it's going to be easy, as if Vicente Luque is just some normal guy. This is a Muay Thai. He's been practicing Muay Thai his whole life. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. This is not no slouch. I promise you.
I guess when I feel like he's going to allow Buckley to control the pace. And if Buckley's controlling the pace, I think he has a problem on his hands. Because I don't think Luque can meet Buckley at his pace. Which is why I say if he is able to keep Buckley on the ground, there's a problem there. There's a huge problem. But Buckley, like I said, he has great cardio. He can fight at this high tempo for multiple rounds. Even if he gets a takedown in the second or third, I don't know if Buckley's going to be drained enough to be kept there. I think he has the strength I think he has technical skill enough to do it. But ultimately, I think he gets back up. He may shock some of you. I don't know. Don't let me be right on this. I'm just saying. Don't let me be right.
Well, again, it's MMA, it's fighting. These are both two of the top welterweights in the world because they're competing in the UFC. So nobody's saying Vicente is just going to walk through him. Nobody's saying Joaquin Buckley is just going to walk through him.
Sure, right.
I'm more just concerned about your opinion of Vicente Luque. That's more so what I'm not even mad you picked Buckley to win because I think there definitely is a path to victory for him. And knowing Vicente Luque, he's been knocked out by Jeff Neal. Like he can be beat. He's not he's not some perfect fighter. But I do have issue with you saying he's just not exceptional anywhere. He's pretty normal and almost, it sounds like you want to call him generic. You want to call him generic?
I don't want to call him generic. I think he's better than generic. He's better because I think generic implies that, he almost like should be continuously ranked at like 15 or something like that. I think he's better than that. But as for that, like fighters of contention, as if like for the top 10, for those fighters, I don't think he forever really has a place in the top 5 or even in the bottom 5. I think he just continuously just lives within the division and just however it shapes up around him.
I think I would beg to differ. I think let's look at and I don't want to spend too much more time on it because we do got other fights to talk about, but I just want to look at the top 10 in welterweight because he's at 11 right now. He's coming off a loss. He's at 11. He can't go out there and compete with a Sean Brady. He can't go out there. He would never fight Gilbert Burns because they're teammates and they're close. He couldn't go out there and fight Gilbert Burns. I know he wants to get that Jeff Neal fight back. Like, there's fights for. I think if him and Jack Della would be a good fight. I think that would be a real good fight.
Of names above him, outside of like Stephen Thompson, yeah, Jack will be a good fight for him for sure. I'll give you that for sure. Everyone else is kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't. He has a path to victory for a lot of those fighters in the top 10, but like, it's also like he might easily lose that fight. Like, I don't think I have enough faith to put my money into him. I don't think if I was to put a parlay in, I don't think I'm putting my money on him. I don't think I'm doing that.
I suppose
he's just a coin flip. It's just, what am I getting out of him today? I don't even know.
I can't believe that the Vicente Luque disrespect.
He's just a very standard fighter. That's all. He's a good fighter for sure. He's great, but he's a very standard guy. Buckley.
Okay, we're all entitled to our own opinions. I'm not mad at that. I'm picking Vicente Luque, just to be clear. By submission.
So, hey.
By submission. By Darce.
What round? See.
If I had to guess, I would say like 2. But
second round knockout. Buckley.
Okay. He's
gonna. You want the minute? Let me give you the minute too.
Give me the minute.
It'll be 3:24 left.
Mark it down, chat. Clip it. If you get that right, I'll buy you a steak. But that's as far as I can go there. Let's talk about the main fight. We got Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot, a flyweight, women's flyweight, number 1 contender match. This is essentially for all the marbles because whoever wins this fight will be fighting the winner of Grasso and Valentina, probably early 2025. This is an exciting one, and this is your typical grappler versus striker, because Manon is a striker. She beat Rose Namajunas, which I understand. We talked about it earlier. That was Rose's first fight in flyweight, but nonetheless, skill is skill, game is game. She didn't get Rose out of there, but she got Rose out of there. Decision. So she's like that on the feet. I saw her face Caitlin Chookagian, somebody that's been a staple in the women's flyweight division, beat her on the feet, which a lot of people were shocked. So that's one aspect. Then you got Aaron Blanchfield, who I might say is, at least in women's flyweight, the best grappler that is in that division. which is saying something. Knowing girls like Valentina, Macy Barber, Jessica Andrade, you can list goes on and on. She is the best grappler out of all those. Her striking on the feet is suspect, which is why I'm hesitant about this fight. But if it gets to the ground, I can assure you it's going to go in her direction. What are your first thoughts? What are your initial thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I think it's an Aaron win. Aaron, she has a willingness to step up to the plate when it comes to striking. I'll give her that. Like you said, it's suspect at times though. But the one consistent thing about Aaron when you see her fight is it's going to hit the ground, and she's going to have a dominant position on the ground. It's not going to be her trapped in guard trying to figure out. She's going to get side control. She's going to get in half, mount, back, maybe she's going to be in a dominant position, and she's looking for a submission. And getting her off of you is not going to be easy. If you manage to get back up to the feet, she'll toy with you a little bit. She'll try to strike. As soon as you go for that hook, timed perfectly back to the ground. She'll clinch you up, trip back to the ground. Her grappling is honestly amongst like some of the best, I believe, in the UFC. Manon, I think she has the ability to, if she could keep it standing up, she has the ability to win. I don't think her striking ability is going to be, or a takedown defense ability, let alone, will be enough to stop Aaron. Though I think this should be an Aaron win, and we'll be talking about Aaron versus whoever next.
You think? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Fior here.
You're not dead ass.
I think I am, and I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me why, please.
I understand everything you said. I'm a big Erin Blanchfield fan. I've seen her come up. I understand her grappling prowess. I know what she's capable of, but I think she's going to get exposed on the feet. Her striking is just not where it needs to be for that level of fighting. And will she get it to the ground? I'm sure at some point she will. But Manon is a big girl. That's a strong girl. The French lady. I'm sure her takedown defense is superb. And I wish I could have the statistics on that, because I can just assume it is. So if she stops the takedown, and this is a standing fight, I mean, I think there's only one way this could go.
If Aaron has learned anything, is don't make the mistakes Ronda Rousey made. Literally, don't even try to play with her standing up. She can look. I get it. Like you said, Manon's a big woman. I believe she may even have a strength advantage. But when it comes to takedowns, you don't necessarily need a strength advantage. True. Like Aaron's clinch work, that's good work. Don't be against the cage. Don't give her some extra angles to trap you. Like I don't think Manon has what it takes to keep Aaron off of her. That's my thing. Because even if she doesn't get the first 2 or 3 takedowns, the fourth one's gonna happen. That one's gonna land, and that may be the one that she needed. That may be just the one. It only takes one. That may be the one she needed. That may just be it. And I don't see a path for her to stop a takedown from happening at some point. And once that happens, her ground game isn't good enough. It's just not.
But what goes on before that? You go for 3 takedowns and they're all unsuccessful. There's stuff that's going on in between though. So you go for a takedown, unsuccessful. All right, let's trade on the feet for a little bit. Let's go. Let me go for another one. And that process repeats. There's a battle going on the feet in between those. And I think that's where Manon is gonna shine. That's where she has to shine. Because like you said, she's solid on the ground. Like, don't get me wrong, but she does not make her money there. And she's definitely not gonna make her money there against somebody as skilled as Erin Blanchfield. But on the ground, that's where she's skilled, bro. Maybe I'm biased because I'm team striker, and I just think that in this case, stop the takedown. Just stop it.
I think Erin's overwhelmingly too good is the issue. I think she's too good. Because honestly, let me say, I agree with you. I'm typically team striker. I think most like, if you the typical matchup between wrestler or just grappler versus striker, I am pro striker because, like you said, every round, this fight, like everything in between, there's striking is going to be in. There's going to be it's going to be done. It's going to be involved in. So it's just if you can figure out like if you can like Izzy, he was great at takedown defense. If the striker, I mean, I understand he's an outlier, but figuratively, if the striker can understand takedown defense, getting back up to his feet, being able to nullify at least even a little bit, a quarter to half of that wrestling ability, there's more than a chance he's gonna have. Where the grappler needs the takedown, and if it does not happen, the fight will not go their way. But this is not that situation particularly. I think Erin is. I think her skill eclipses what someone like Manning can handle as far as grappling.
So you think that there's a bigger gap between them on the ground than there is them on the feet?
I would say so.
I don't know, man. I
She's like Erin's like that. Blanchfield is she's
talking,
tough.
I'm talking about like her on the feet, and this is why I think probably last year she came out. This was when I think this is when Valentina was fight. This might have been 2 years ago. Valentina fought Talia Santos, and it was a very close fight. Valentina got the win, but I remember it was close, and people were like, "Oh, she's not invincible." Blah blah blah. I remember Erin Blanchfield came out and was like, "Oh, I could beat Valentina. I could do this. I could do that." And I was like, let me go watch some of her tape, and I was like, there's no chance.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
get
chance
that.
because on the ground, sure, it would be close. Valentina is like that on the ground.
That's
So
the problem. Is be
I'm not
close
I'm
on
not
this one.
saying Erin Blanchfield it wouldn't have success on the ground. Would she get a takedown? Who knows? That's to be seen. But on the feet, I don't think it would even be remotely close. And I think when you get to the tip top of the division, you have to be well rounded everywhere. You can't lack in certain departments. And if you do, you're gonna get exposed.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I think Aaron's gonna get exposed.
But is Manning striking amongst top of the division? Like, is she actually that level of stamped? Is that where it is?
I'll say this. Her striking, I feel like it's tiers. Let me go through the tiers.
Okay, let's
You
tiers.
got Alexa Grasso, you got Valentina Shevchenko. And I'll throw in Rose Namajunas in there, which is crazy because Rose did just lose to Manon, but like you got to hear me. I'm talking about skill, striking, pureness.
Right.
Those three are in their own class in flyweight. Those are the top three strikers there. Right below that is where Fiore is. She is a class below that. I would put her with Macy Barber. I'd put her with Chikagian, Jessica Andrade. Like those that second tier class is where I would put her. Erin Blanchfield, she at least in the top 15, she's in that third quadrant, like 10-5. I mean, she's not better than Tracy Cortez on the feet. I don't think she's better than Jessica Andrade on the feet. She's not better than Amanda Hebos on the feet. Now her ground game makes up for essentially all of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe she comes out here and she put in the work and she proves me wrong. But I just think there's tiers. And while Manon may not be at the tip top of that by any means, she's right below. She's on the cusp.
Okay, I'll give you that. Watching their film, I I felt confident Erin Blanchfield was going to win this fight.
Mm.
There is a road to victory. I think her size, for Ribas, I think her size is definitely going to be the thing that Free boss, Manon. That's gonna be the thing. You just said free boss, and I don't know why that's in my mind. But Manon, I think her size is gonna be a determining factor. I don't think this technically she has the skill to stop an Aaron Blanfield takedown, but I think her natural strength, natural size may give more pushback for Aaron than it may be to deal with typically. But as the fight goes on, I think that's where it gets dangerous. I think as the fight, people get a little tired. It becomes a little easier for Aaron to grab on, to engage, get in the clinch. That's where this fight really starts to become one-sided. Early rounds, round one will be close. I think after round one, we start to see a separation.
I agree with you in the sense of not necessarily, the second part, but I do agree. I think it'll be very interesting to see who excels in the other's realm. Like if the fight goes to the ground, can Manon excel and get up to her feet? If they're on the feet, can Erin Blanchfield not only be respectable on the feet, but can she beat Manon on the feet? That's real. That's who's gonna win this fight. Whoever can excel in the other's department.
I feel that. Gain some respect. Somebody gains the other's respect somewhere.
Exactly.
If you can do that, you may really have the chance. You may have the opportunity. It's gonna be a close fight. I'll give you that. It's not gonna be a domination by any means for either fighter. But I do no, wholeheartedly. I do feel at the back end of this fight, Aaron takes the edge.
I hear you, man. I'm very interested to see, like I said earlier, a lot of potential title implications with this fight. The winner of this is probably going to face the winner of Grasso versus Valentino when they fight on Mexican Independence Day at the Sphere in September. So whoever does win this fight, they might have to sit out for a little bit, but hey, that's just the game. That's a good card, man. I'm excited. Like we said, got some sleepers on there. I'm interested to see your sleeper Bruno. I'm interested to see how he does against a vet like Chris Weidman. Even though
I like Bruno, man.
Very excited. Very excited. We got we got UFC 300. It's on the horizon, man. We're not gonna talk about it here. I want to really bad, but we're gonna wait. That's going to be next week, the week after. We're going to give it some time. But one thing that was announced, UFC Saudi Arabia, June 22nd, Robert Whittaker, Khamzat Chimaev. That's a heater. That's a heater.
It is.
Some of the other fights on there, we got Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov, Kevin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez, Johnny Walker's on the card. We got some big name people.
My dog Shara. I can't forget about my dog Shara.
Yeah, can't. He is a savage as well. We got some savages on this card, man.
I love Shara. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Really?
I love Shara.
That's your dog. I respect it. He's a savage. This is a fight night. We're getting this for free. You can turn on ESPN Plus, watch this for free. When you heard Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev, what was the first thing? What was your literal first thought that popped into your head?
This needs to happen. It sets the record straight for a lot of things. Whittaker, where he belongs in the division, I think the winner of this fight should fight for the championship. Chimaev, it really will set him apart. I know he fought Usman. And that was Usman's first fight. It was last minute. Right. Nobody really expected it, but he beat Usman. He beat him.
He did.
That was our former number one pound for pound.
Well, I think it's common consensus just in the MMA community. Khamzat did win, but I think the common consensus was if this fight was to go 5 rounds, Kamaru would have won. Because he was storming back. He was starting to get his through. But that doesn't matter because Khamzat got the win. So it doesn't matter.
I will say I'm not usually a fan of taking someone who's ranked 11 and having them fight so highly. but Kamzat has the hype, he has the traction. If without that win against Usman, I would be definitely against this. But considering that did happen as well, I can be okay with it this time. I can be okay with it. And then I guess there's no telling what happens. Whoever wins this fight, I mean, I think the division shakes up possibly with how everything works out after that.
I'm already very confused on how it is because Dana White, and again, we can only take Dana White at his word. He said this was a title contender match. He said whoever wins this is essentially going to fight for the title.
Right.
But we got Sean Strickland waiting in the wings,
Right.
who maybe doesn't necessarily deserve an immediate rematch, but a lot of people were calling for it because they said he was robbed in his last fight. We got Israel Adesanya, who defended the middleweight division for years, and we don't really know his status, but he's definitely been talking about coming back sooner rather than later to fight Duplessis. So for this to be a title contender match, should it be?
I can only imagine the reason why it's happening this way is because Duplessis has declined Israel a couple times now. And like we said, we don't know why or what was led to him doing that. But ultimately, he's made it clear at this point that he doesn't want his next fight to be against Israel Adesanya. Therefore, giving Sean Strickland a rematch right now, personally, I understand why not. Like, I'm okay with not doing that right now. It's not like he was such a crazy household name in the division for so long, anything like that. I'm okay with him having to wait a second. But if you're not going to have those two matchups, I think like Robert Whitaker did just prove himself a little bit against Paulo Costa.
He did.
And Khamzat Chimaev was the dark horse of the division when he first came into it. I believe this is probably whoever wins this fight deserves the shot. Because of Duplessis declining Israel Adesanya and not giving to Sean. The fight should determine who fights for the championship.
And I'm just assuming here, and I'm not even going to assume. I'm just going to ask. I'm not going to ask who you predict win, but who do you want to win? Who do you want to see fight for the belt next?
I'm not gonna lie to you because I had different biases.
Sure
I had different biases about this. Who I would like to see fight for the belt. I'd like to see Israel Adesanya because I feel like we were robbed of the places Israel Adesanya fight. I like Robert Whitaker. I believe he definitely deserves a shot. I believe he can have this shot between between Robert and Chimaev. I would like him to draw, to be honest. But
how would you want that?
Because I'm not ready for the era. I told you before, I'm not ready for the era of Russian grappler champion. I don't want that right now. I don't want that right now.
But Khamzat, I feel like Khamzat's different though. Khamzat, I understand the sentiment behind that, the Dagestani, wrestle heavy style, which I hear you, but I feel like Khamzat isn't necessarily in that realm. He's more of I don't want to compare him to Shavkat, but I feel like he's more like Shavkat Rakhmonov than he is than Habib or Islam. I mean, Khamzat's going to go in there and he's 100% balls to the wall. He's going to try to get you out of there on the feet, on the mat. Exciting.
That's true. I'll give you that. He is a little more like he has no care for what happens. He's just going to charge at you and finish you as fast as humanly possible. But it's just so similar. It's like watching like Prime Khabib just going for 30 takedowns in a fight. Like, just trying to smash. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just this style of fighting. I'm not ready for it. But if I had to be unbiased about it, yes, he's exciting. He gets finishes. Like, yeah, I'd go with him. I want him to win.
You'd rather have him fight for the belt than Rob?
Personally, yes, because I'm tired of Rob just being up there. for so many years. His time hasn't passed yet. I think he still deserves
He's
to be
young.
up here, but I'm just tired of seeing his name up there. I'm just tired of seeing
I
it.
feel it. If we look at it in a vacuum, I want Rob to fight for the belt. And I low key want him to win the belt. I want him to gain what he once had. In
You
a
want him to
vacuum.
win because you think his era was never like really like Izzy kind of just interrupted all that.
He did. I think Rob would have been a great because imagine. Let's go to hypothetical La La Land. Israel Adesanya doesn't exist. All of Rob's matches after that, those all would have been defenses. And so, yeah, he eventually would have lost, but he would have got 4 defenses.
I agree. I agree there.
And we'd be talking about Robert Whitaker in a whole different light. Now, he gets his respect, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
We'd be talking about Robert Whitaker in the sense of, is he a top 5 middleweight of all time? Does he slide in there at 5? Like, that's what we say.
Right.
Now, again, this is La La Land. We'll never know because he got knocked out in Sydney by Israel Adesanya. So I think for that reason, I do want him to fight for the belt, and I want him to get it back. But that's in a vacuum because I know that if he gets the belt back, we'd have to see Izzy versus Rob like 8. Like that'd be like the 10th time we've seen that fight. I don't want to see that. So for that reason, I have to pick Khamzat. But I definitely would rather see Rob.
I get the sentiment. I get the sentiment. I do. I feel you.
That's all I'm saying. I don't know. Again, these are just way too early, just predictions. Where we got some exciting cards. UFC 300. That's UFC Fight Night. That's in June. UFC 305 coming up. We got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm very excited. Speaking of cards, we've been building a card ourselves.
Yes, we have.
We've been creating a card from scratch, and it's one of those. We're not necessarily trying to build, the greatest, grandest. We're trying to make a realistic card that could happen now, and that has good storylines, good plot. So far, main event: Alexa Grasso versus Wei Li. Interesting main event, which is I liked it because it put me in a different mindset. Creating my second fight, I couldn't just throw different people in there. It had to make sense who I threw in there. I had Holloway versus Ortega too. Had that as the co-main. I'm interested to see this third fight. Who you got? Because the third fight, in my opinion, is a very important fight on a pay-per-view card. It kind of
So I wanted to keep the trend going a little bit because I felt like we had this plan to be in Mexico City, I believe, and I wanted this fight to make sense. I wanted to be a meaningful fight for another Mexican fighter. So I wanted to go to 2 guys that both need a win to establish themselves back into the rotation of the mix. I wanted to go and look at light heavyweight, and I wanted to look into Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith. The reason I went there is because Anthony Smith, if you ever just hear him talk on any podcast or just in general, he has confidence within himself to do anything. Like he believed he was better than John Jones. I'm sure to this day he probably still believes that. He believes things should have happened differently. He just didn't show up. Dominic Reyes has not had a great time since the fight with John Jones. But Dominic Reyes has fought, like his last 3 or 4 fights have been against former champions. All light heavyweight champions. He's seen a gauntlet, strength of schedule, kind of unlike we've seen anyone else have to deal with in light heavyweight. And kind of going through his fights, I realized, I can't put too much against him. He's fighting the toughest opponents in the division. And I can't give credit for losing, but I have to at the same time give him credit for at least being amongst like those names, being that good. So being able to fight someone like Anthony Smith can bring him back into title contention possibly. You fight Anthony Smith, maybe you fight, depending on how the division was to go in this hypothetical situation in the future, maybe he ends up having to fight one other guy because there's a lot of rematches that kind of have to happen in light heavyweight right now. But maybe he fights one other guy. But after that, he's in contention. He makes his division, that'll be what, 5-6 guys deep, maybe 7 guys deep into different mixed matches of fights that can possibly happen and then possibly knockout. We have to remember who Dominic Reyes is. He's exciting. He's a great striker. He's in your face. He's pacey. He's shown in the past that he belongs. Anthony Smith, he's a gamer. He's gonna be in your face. He doesn't care. He believes he's better than you. He believes this isn't his time yet. He wants to show that he can still be amongst those names. I think that's a fight that's going to end in a knockout one way or another, and it's going to be some great chunk. I think that's going to be an exciting matchup.
That's definitely an interesting one. That's an interesting one, and I think I'm in. I'll tell you why I almost wasn't. I'll tell you why I almost wasn't, because Dominic Reyes is not ranked. He hasn't got a win in forever.
He's fighting.
He is very susceptible to getting knocked out, but you did point out he is an exciting fighter. One way or another, somebody's getting knocked out when he fights. It might be him, but it might be the other guy too. And a guy like Anthony Smith, you can always put on a main event of a card because, like you said, he's a gamer. He's supremely confident. He's never going to go in there and give you half energy. He's going to go in there and believe in himself and try to accomplish everything. So I'm in, because that's a good matchup. I think we might have talked about that a little bit when I forget if we were talking about Dominic Reyes. Oh, Dominic Reyes is number 14, so technically he is ranked, but I think we were I like that matchup. That's a good little fight to put in there at 3.
And let me say this, because like you, I was pretty much fully out on Dominic Reyes until after just watching some of his fights, just watching them back. I was like, what? My mind thought, what happened? Like, what happened? Then, like, I saw his last couple fights. I said, oh, okay, you faced Yuri. You faced John Jones. You faced Jan. It's like, oh gosh, like you fought some killer. You fought some guys. Like, there's no. I do not believe there's any other light heavyweight in the last 3 years who has had a tougher strength of schedule than him. I don't think there's any other light heavyweight. And I know it doesn't mean anything because you lost the fights, but I feel like it should mean just something to some degree. I think he can show, like, he's maybe still better than a lot of these middle tier fighters. He's ranked 14. He lost 3 in a row. He's lost 3 in a row, and half of them were to. He lost Ryan Spann also, which I get that, but the other fights were against all former champions right now.
Right, and
hey,
I will say also, in his fight against Yuri, he was having success.
He was having success.
He actually had Yuri, I forget what strike he hit him with, but he hit him with a shot, and Yuri was out cold. He actually said this after the fight.
I did see that.
He knocked him out cold, but he fell on top of him, and which gave him time to kind of jumble the cobwebs and recover. But Yuri said he was out cold, and that was from a Dominic strike. So I do believe in Dominic Reyes, former FCS college football safety. So I'm definitely going to support him in that regard as well. I'm in. Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. I'm in. I don't know.
Let me also give you this. I also wanted to make sure I didn't want there to be a third fight that potentially outshine the other two as well. Right. Because I wanted the main event and co-main event that to be like dominatingly like those are the people. Like UFC 300, there's a third fight in there, between Gaethje and Max that that's also gonna get a lot of people are gonna be tuning in to see that fight. But at the same time, I was like, this isn't UFC 300. Let me not try to super stack this. Let me make it more realistic. And I felt at the time I made it, I felt realistically this is something that I think could be in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I felt this could be realistically a fight that could be in there.
No, that's why I like this exercise, because it's like you said, every card, and we've clearly seen this with some of the cards they put out. Not every card can be UFC 300. I mean, the third fight on that card, Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, that could easily outshine Wei Lee versus Yan. I'm not saying it will, but that fight could headline UFC 300, and it's the third fight.
Yeah,
Charles versus Arman could easily be a co-main event of UFC 300, but it's at the beginning. It's near the beginning. That's why I like this exercise, because it really makes you think about the matchups. And that's what I had to feel when I was putting together mine, is Grasso versus Wei Lee could be a Joanna versus Wei Lee-esque fight. It could be a classic.
It could.
It also could be a highly skilled technical fight, which necessarily isn't damage worthy like the Joanna Wei Lee one.
Right.
Just as good tactfully and skillfully, but it's more from a technical point. So I was like, well, I can't just go in there and think of the biggest names in history and just put them in the co-main. Like, that wouldn't make sense. This has to make sense. And that's why this exercise is good, because it really makes you think, and it really makes you put different fighters in different perspectives. So then when I go and I make this fourth fight, like, I'm going to have to, okay, let me look at the storylines from the first two fights. Let me look at what Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes, who could complement that well. And then you'll do the same with the fifth to round out the card. I don't know. I like the exercise. I think it's interesting.
I like it for sure.
Plays of the week. What do you got? What do you got for the people?
I'm pretty confident in Joaquin Buckley. He was plus 100. That's something I would throw in my parlay if I was a betting man.
Versus Vicente? I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying.
Nah, that's you said he's plus 100?
Plus 100.
That's interesting. I mean, I would assume Vicente is like minus 150 then. I would assume it's close.
I don't know. I think it was close when I saw it, and that made me actually get more confident in Joaquin Buckley off of that. I don't know why I let the market telling me how confident I should be in Joaquin Buckley, but I thought, like, I'm confident. They must be kind of confident. Hey, maybe my man really has a chance here.
Vegas definitely knows stuff that we don't.
They do, man. They know something.
Definitely, yeah. That could be a good one. Obviously, I feel I think Vicente is gonna win, but for value, if you can get Joaquin Buckley at plus 100, for sure, I would do that. Me personally, I'm going with my sleeper, man. Anton Turcal at plus 105. I think this is I'm not gonna say a lock, but it's a sleeper one. This guy's been in there with some savages. Like I said, the UFC pushed him a little too fast. I think this is a great way to get back on his feet. And if you can get him at plus 105, do it, please.
That's good value.
That's all I'm thinking. Last segment though, debate of the day. And this is one that Joe Rogan actually talks about a lot. I got the idea from him. He talks with all of his UFC fighters that he has on his podcast. Weight classes. Do we need more? Do we need less? We don't need less, but like, do we need more? Are we fine the way it is? I think we need more.
I think that's so interesting because before you brought this to me, I would have never thought there was even another opinion about there being more weight classes. I feel I'm not a fighter. I'm not a professional fighter. I get it, but they feel to me as if they are perfectly aligned to where fighters should be. I think the idea of adding more weight classes seems like, for what? Why are we doing this? We're just trying to mix and match, and we're trying to create situations that are complicated now. We need to do that.
I'm gonna walk you through my pitch here and why I think
Hmm.
we do. You look at all of the weight classes.
Right.
You got 25, 35, 45, 55. You go from 55 to 70, that's 15. You go from 70 to 85, 15. Go from 85 to 205, that's 20. And then you got heavyweight. Those are some decently big jumps as we get higher. Do I think we need the boxing weight classes where we go 30, 34, 37, 41? Like, no, I don't think we do. But do I think we could include uh, a 65? Yeah, or like a 63, 65? Yes. Could we put a 195? Yes. I think that would give more fighters opportunity to fight at their natural weight, or at least the ability to fight at a weight that they're more comfortable with. Two, it would help with weight cuts because you wouldn't need certain guys. Certain guys feel like they have to cut weight. You got
Yeah.
you got guys that really should be at 185, but they're considered small. So they're like, all right, I'm gonna cut down to 170. Or you never really have people that want to go up. You always have people that want to go down outside of
Right.
trying to be a double champ. And cutting weight isn't healthy, man. Like any fighter will tell you, cutting weight is not healthy. You're essentially killing yourself. You're
Yeah.
dehydrating your body in order to achieve the weight that you want, and you're not doing it in over a month. Like you're doing it that essentially week, but really that night of the weight cut, which can't be healthy. I mean, we've seen liver failure, we've seen people pass out on the scale, we've seen all types of things. I think any way we can eliminate that, we should at least look into it. And again, I'm not
Okay.
saying we need to have 50,000 weight classes, but throw in some other ones, man. Throw in a little 65er.
You know what? I didn't think about it that way. I was thinking about it from the perspective of, if you look at the weight classes, I like that. I like how structured and organized they are. That fighters eat you like they're most fighters that fight in a particular weight class, that is that is them. Like you a lot of these fighters, unless besides them getting older and just can't do the weight cut anymore, they almost fight in the same weight class their entire career. And it's because, I feel like that is your weight class. There is no wondering if you can't do it. Maybe you just happens to go up, or you maybe just go down a weight class. Like
Mm.
that, like I don't like that indecisiveness of like fighters just jumping weight classes. But when you put it that way, it creates a healthier environment for the fighters. So I get that. That makes sense. I'm I just like the organization of how we have it now, because it puts fighters into that class, and that's typically where they're going to be, unless they want to go out their way to try to drop more weight. Maybe they want to try to put more weight on to kind of compromise in another weight class. They can do that, but for the most part, fighters fight in a weight class, and that's like their weight class for most of their career. And I kind of like that familiarity with that.
Let me ask you this: Do you think a let me think of a specific. I guess the best example would be a 195 weight class. Do you think a 195 weight class would dilute the UFC? And I'm take away weight cutting, take away that aspect of it from a strictly belt perspective. Do you think a 195 weight class would dilute the UFC?
So the first place my mind goes is the kind of fighters that would join that weight class. I would have to think that Apollo Costa is someone that would eye at that kind of weight
Bro,
class.
imagine Paulo.
Like, and then I would also think a guy like Dominic Reyes would probably drop to that weight class.
You know,
it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Okay, for the heavy. Okay, I see where you're coming from. For that, particularly that weight class, 195. I'm agree with you there. When you put it that way, I actually agree. 195 actually, I believe, can make some sense. I see it. I'm not gonna say it dilutes it. I do see there'd be some fighters I'd be like, come on, dog, like stay 185, or bro, like you're a 205, or don't run from that work. But for that particular situation, I'll give that to you. 195, I think, does make sense there.
I almost want to take away weight cuts in general. I wish they would do away with it. And I wish everybody fought at their natural weight.
I would hate that.
Why?
I don't want that at all.
Why would you not want to see people fight at their natural weight?
Because it's the whole cardio behind it. It's the
What do you mean cardio?
Like it's the I guess personally, I know people have an issue with weight bullies, and he's just a weight bully. He should be here. He just goes down. Look, if you have what it takes to get down to that weight, do it. Like you're sacrificing. If you are someone fighting out of your weight, like too far out of your weight class, you're sacrificing something to be in that weight class. Whether it's strength, whether it's cardio, maybe it's even some speed. Like if it's a harsh weight cut, you're gonna be missing something to get to that weight class. It's same for the opposite way. If you are someone going up, you're probably not gonna have the strength to deal with a lot of those fighters. Now, of course, the more common situation is, the heavier fighter going down. And I feel like if you can make it, hey, he may be naturally a little bit stronger than you, but your cardio is probably better than his, most likely. Usually, you probably naturally have more speed than him. You have advantages yourself. I'm not saying I'm for there being weight bullies, but I don't have as much of an issue with it as others do.
I don't get why not though. I understand you saying if you can make the weight. Alex Pereira goes from 230 to 185. He's sacrificing something. He didn't sacrifice his power. He didn't sacrifice his speed. He sacrificed his chin. We saw that in the second Izzy fight. So things like that are real. I get it. But man, I can't. I don't like rewarding weight bullies for doing that. Like, I understand it's part of the game, but it doesn't need to be. If we got rid of weight cutting, if everybody just fought at their natural weight.
Here's also the other issue. We're talking about wrestlers that have cut weight since they were in middle school. So
doesn't make it better.
Maybe it doesn't. But we're talking about people that would be choosing to fight in their preferred weight class because it's their natural weight. But you're talking about also different fighters who will be coming in from wrestling backgrounds that have always been cutting weight. So you may be also adding more weight bullies by doing that. You may be also causing a problem with the weight bullies by choosing to do it that way.
I just don't see the point. I just don't see it. Like, I just pulled up a thing. It's a chart of UFC fighters, what they weighed in at, and then what they weighed in on fight day. And I mean, some of them are just like what?
Egregious.
Like, what's the point? And these ones aren't even that bad. But if Alexander Volkanovski weighs in at 145 and then fights at 168, it's like you're just adding on 20 something pounds after. Like, what is the purpose? Like, some of them aren't that bad. Kat Zingano weighed in 145 and then made 155. That's only a 10-pound jump. But I mean, some of these are 10, 20. I remember seeing Jeff Neal a few cards ago. I think his was the biggest. He weighed 170, and then he might have been 200.
I remember that actually.
You know what I'm talking about?
He was large in there.
Some of these are just crazy, and I just can't help feeling that if everybody just fought at their natural weight, we might get more exciting fights. People would not be drained. There's no such thing as a bad weight cut anymore. People get on the scale and we're like, ooh, so and so looks very drained. They had a bad weight cut. And then they get in the octagon and they said, yeah, I had a bad weight cut. I had no energy. I didn't have this, that.
I do hate that. I'll agree there. I do hate that.
We're eliminating that. That's out of there. So,
my favorite fighter having a bad weight cut, and that's why they lost the fight. That makes me mad. I do hate that. It makes me mad.
Like you got beat before you got in.
You feel me? That's how I feel. You got beat before you even touched before you prayed before walking in, before you came out the back, you were already defeated.
Already lost. And think about any other sport outside of obviously wrestling. Football. Imagine going into the football game having weight cut on imagine an NFL player weight cutting Saturday night and then going to play Sunday. Imagine LeBron James before a doubleheader on Tuesday having a weight cut on Monday. Like it's just like, what are we doing? And I understand they're different sports, but it's the comparison, it's the metaphor behind it. Let's get it out of there.
I get it. For the heavier weights, I think I feel you a little bit, but let's leave the lighter weights alone. Let's keep them in that weight, in that box.
And this is my last thing, and then we can sign off. Do you think there should be a heavyweight limit? 265 is the limit. Do you think it should be heavyweight is whatever you are?
I've battled with that a while, for honestly. I've battled with that. I think there should be a limit. It should just be higher. I think we should make the limit maybe like 275.
270. I mean, that's like the same thing.
Get 10 extra. 10 extra.
I think it should be like 290.
Nah, that's crazy. If you because you're saying that because you're also pro more weight classes though. Because there's no way you could have a guy that's like 275 in there with like Cyril Gane. Like that's
you could though.
I mean, you could, but like the difference in those two fighters would have to be like the difference between a light heavyweight and a welterweight. Like that has to be crazy.
Okay, this is truly my last question. We're talking about adding weight classes. Forget all the other ones. Super heavyweight. 265 plus.
It could be tough. You would be giving a division to the large guys, the guys that are just naturally built big, and they struggle to meet that 265 limit. I think it definitely would help them out a lot. Okay, I'll be okay with that. I think
a guy like Ty would never weight could come in there 280. I wouldn't want him coming in at 320 or nothing, but he could come in there a little bigger, maybe a little beefier, whatever. I don't know. I think it could be very exciting. I understand it could be. The only risk you take is getting guys in there who are out of shape and just come in as big as possible. That is
I'd be sick about watching some overweight just slinging. They're tired after the first round. I'm like, bro, you didn't even come on, dog.
I don't think that would be the case though. UFC highest organization in the MMA world. I mean, bro, some of the local fights that they have out here where we live, they have super heavyweight. And I don't know if that's because it's amateur and they don't want them cutting. I don't know what it is, but they have super heavyweight. And the fights, again, it's amateur. So, yeah, some of them gas out. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But I think on a UFC scale, I think they're going to train the right way.
Where would you fight in a weight class?
It's funny that you say that because I think about that probably daily, and I have no reason to think about that because I'm not fighting or nothing.
Daily, he thinks about it.
But every time, because I like to weigh myself daily, and knowing just my body type, I like to be like, I weighed in at 185 today. Could I cut down to 170? Yes. Could I get to 155? Probably not, but I don't know. If somebody taught me, I mean, who knows? 6'1",
It'd be tough.
6'1", 155er, no Jalen Turner. I mean, I don't know.
You looking like Dan Hooker out there.
I don't know. I mean, if I ever do end up actually having to get in a fight, like a sanctioned fight, I anticipate I would fight 170 because I feel like I'd be able to retain most of my strength, endurance, things like that without having to kill myself. I couldn't fight at 185, bro. Those guys are too big. Those
I'm not
guys
gonna lie to you. I'd be blue to see you fight 185.
bro, again, if people fought at their natural weight class, I could. I wake up in the morning, I'm 185 pounds. That is what I weigh. It might be a little under, I might be a little over. I am naturally 185. I've been there since college. If I fought at my natural weight class right now, I'd be fighting Paulo Costa, who fought at light heavyweight. He fought at 205, which means
Could
he
you
cut
imagine
down.
fighting Paulo Costa?
Oh, like he cut down.
Walking around,
Balloon arm guy. Like,
what
do I look like?
doing spinning kicks,
Being fast and agile. Like, no.
being quick twitch, being an athlete.
Like, no, the one set. I mean, bro, and I even think about 170. Guys like Kamaru Usman fought at 170, and he walks around at 200. So
Just diesel for no reason.
It's like, bro, you can't win for losing. Maybe that's why I want more weight classes for my own,
your own sake.
My own subconscious wants it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know. I will let you know if I ever end up cutting weight, man. That's a good show though. That's a good show. Exciting card coming up tomorrow. Tap in. We also want to shout out Cottrell, 2 p.m. Real recognizes real. He's been killing it lately, going over these top prospects coming into the draft. I tune in every episode. I learn something every episode. Football fans, please tap in. That's all I got, man. You got anything else for the stream, for the guys?
Nothing too much. I know next week we may do something a little different. Possibly we're gonna come and converge and talk about how we're gonna do next week, just because of 300. It's such a large card. What we're gonna do about that. So next week's show may be a little different. Possibly we're gonna figure that out. But I think regardless of what we do, next week's gonna be a good show.
It's gonna be good as always, man. I'm glad you joined me. This was a good one.